If you are looking at buying a budget bi-color studio light, you should check out this Kobra CL100. And I will also tell you a reason why, if you're interested in buying this light, it's better to buy it now rather than wait till later. Kia ora, good morning everyone, Rich Wong here, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to have a look at the first studio light from Kobra. It is CL100. It is a bi-color studio light. The color temperature can be adjusted between 2700K to 6500K. According to the factory, the maximum brightness is 9900 lux at 1 meter and the CRI rating is 97 plus. So the specs definitely seems very good and the price is also very attractive at only $199. So let's have a closer look at this studio light and see whether it is a good budget studio light or not. This Kobra CL100 is a pretty compact studio light. The construction is mostly plastic, so it does help to reduce the weight of this light. The weight is only around 1.1 kilograms, so very lightweight, and even if you compare to other similar product in the market, it is still a little bit lighter than the other similar studio lights. Now, because of its plastic construction, it does feel a bit plasticky, but I don't mind so much because most other budget studio light in the market all feel very similar and also very plasticky, and I do quite like the design of the light. It looks pretty nice to me. There's a LED display at the back of the light, and you can also find all the other buttons and dials there. I'll talk about the controls of this light very soon. And the light uses the standard Bowens mount, so it should be pretty easy for you to find some softbox or accessories for this light. However, I do find when I try to mount some of my soft boxes onto this light, like my Aputure Soft Dome Mini 2, it doesn't fit as nice or as easy as it normally would be. I have to push it, like use a little bit of force to push it into the mount, but once it fitted in, then it works perfectly fine. So not too sure if it's just because it is a pre-production sample or not, and I did tell Kobra about this and they said they will look into it. The tilt head is completely made of plastic and there is an umbrella holder on the tilt head, so that is great if you're buying this light as your first studio light, so you don't have any softbox and you don't have a budget to buy it yet, or you just prefer to use umbrella instead of softbox. The tilt head itself, I think the overall design is okay. It is not the best tilt head design, but it works okay. But I do wish the tilt head is made of metal instead of plastic. There are two different options for you to power this Kobra CL100 light. The first one is to use the AC power. So the light comes with a power brick. Pretty standard stuff. You plug the power brick into the light and then the other side to the AC power source. One thing I really like is the cable that connects the power brick to the AC power source is quite long. So that means I can hang the power brick on my light stand. I don't have to just light it on the ground, which is something I don't really like. The light uses a GX16 3-pin connector to connect the power source to the light. GX16 connector is a metal connector that was originally used in the aviation industry. It is a very solid connector. However, compared it with the connector that is used by the other studio lights, most of them would have kind of like a rubber or plastic outside coating outside the connector, and most of those you just need to plug it into the light directly, while with the GX16 connector, after you plug it in, you kind of have to rotate this cap here to tighten it up onto the studio light itself. So it does provide a very secure connection from your power source to the light. However, it does feel a little bit unpolished and not as quick and easy to connect and disconnect the power source to the light. Kobra has also created an optional VBS V-mount battery plate for you to power the light using a single V-mount battery. So this is great for people who is filming outdoor when you don't have access to AC power. Now, despite this is a budget studio light, but Cobra also include a carry case with this CL100, and it is a very nice carry case as well. So the quality of this carry case is very good, but one thing I like the most is the size of this carry case is very compact. It is quite a bit smaller than all the other carry case that I've seen with the other studio lights. It is great because it doesn't take up so much storage space while it still protects the lights really well. Okay, now let's talk about the light output from this Cobra CL100 studio light. As I mentioned before, it is a bi-color studio light, so there are some certain advantage and disadvantage if you compare it with a daylight balance studio light. The advantage is you can adjust the color temperature from 2700K all the way to 6500K. So that is quite a wide color temperature range. It is great when you are shooting in different locations. Either you want to match the light output with the ambient color temperature, or you want to create a different kind of mood using the different color temperature from this studio light. Overall, I find the color output from this CL100 seems pretty nice, but I do notice there is a little bit of color shift in some certain color temperature settings. One downside of a bicolor light is it is usually a little bit dimmer compared to a daylight balance studio light, and this is the same for this Cobra CL100. When I compare it with the Amaran 100D, which is also a 100 watt light, but it is a daylight balance light, the bicolor Cobra CL100 is definitely not as bright as the daylight balance Amaran 100D, but overall I think the brightness of this Cobra CL100 is still not bad at all for a 100 watt bicolor light. All the controls are at the back of the light, so there are 4 buttons and 1 dial at the back of the light. The first button is for you to turn on and turn off the light, and then the second one is for you to change the different mode. So apart from a constant output mode, there are 6 different effects that is available for this CL100. The effects looks pretty good, and because it is a bi-color studio light, so it looks more realistic than the effects on other daylight balance studio lights. One thing that kind of confused me a little bit until I actually figured out what's happening is the CL100 will remember the output level of each effect individually. So what it means is when you are changing between different effects, instead of keeping the output level identical, it will just recall the output level of that particular effect that you set previously. If you long press the mode button, it will trigger the turbo mode, which according to Cobra, the light will be running in 120 watt for 60 seconds. However, when I try that feature, especially when I already have the light running at 100% power, I honestly cannot tell if there's any changes in the output brightness when the turbo mode is activated. The only thing that I really notice is the fan is now running a lot louder. So maybe the turbo mode does increase the maximum output brightness, but the difference is quite small and not really noticeable, at least not to my eyes. However, I find this turbo mode a very useful feature when you want to light up your scene very briefly. For example, if you are filming outdoor in a dark area and you want to make some changes to your scene, for example, you can just long press this mode button to activate the turbo mode, and you will just brighten up the scene for a brief period of time so that you can do your settings, and then it will automatically dim back to the previous setting. Then we have the group button, which allow you to assign the light in different groups, and the last button is the fan button, which allow you to change the cooling fan to run in 2 different modes. You have the smart mode, which means the light will automatically adjust the speed of the cooling fan according to the power output and also the temperature of the light. And then you have the quiet mode, which means the cooling fan will be running at a constant speed instead of changing up and down. The cooling fan itself is very quiet even when you are running in the quiet mode, which means it's always running. even in a room like this, I don't really hear the cooling fan at all. So that's a good news if you are planning to buy this light and use it for filming in a quiet indoor area. So overall, the controls are pretty easy, pretty straightforward. I think you probably don't even need to read the menu and you should be able to figure out how to change all the settings on the light. The only complaint that I have is just like the Amaran 100 and 200D light that I reviewed recently, because all the controls are at the back of the light. So if you set up this light on a light stand and you raise it quite high, then it could be a bit hard for you to reach and adjust the settings. However, the good news is Cobra has bundled a remote control with the CL100, so that allows you to control the light remotely, especially when it's hard to reach. One very good thing about the remote for the Cobra CL100 is even if you have turned off the light, you can still use the remote to turn it back on. It is a very simple but very important thing that a lot of other lights remote couldn't do. But remember at the beginning of the video I said if you are interested in buying this light, it may be better to buy it now instead of wait till later. And the reason is because Cobra is also developing a smartphone app for this CL100 light. The app is not available yet at the time I'm doing this review, but it will be available very soon. And once Cobra has finished and published that smartphone app, they will no longer bundle the remote as part of the light as a standard accessories. So you can still buy this remote if you want to, but you have to pay for it. So that's why if you are interested in buying this light, it's better to buy it now while the remote control is still bundled as part of the standard accessory. Oh, there's one more thing I want to mention about the remote control is the first time when you took the light and remote out of the box, you have to pair the remote to the light manually. And how you do that is when you plug the power into the light, you have to immediately press the EFF button and hold the button on the remote, and within a few seconds you should see the light would flash, and that means the light and the remote has been paired successfully, and then you can use the remote to remotely control your light. In some way, you can see this Cobra CL100 is the first studio light from the company. There are a few things that doesn't feel as refined as other studio lights in the market, but Cobra has compensated by giving it a very attractive price and also bundled it with a few things like a very nice carry case and a remote control. So in terms of quality, this light may not be the best budget studio light in the market, but in terms of value for money, I think this Cobra CL100 is a very good choice.